Yo, what's going on? Y'all know what it is. It's your girl, More Ash, and not just in the building. Y'all know what it is, the Gumbo Show. Another day. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is in your respective
Hey,
region, I will say. Hey, Nanda.
hey, what's going on, world? Y'all know what it is. Another day, another dollar, another one in the books.
That's right. And we have a great and amazing guest in the building with us today. She is coming all the way from our hometown, St. Louis, Missouri, and she goes by the
Hey,
name of Miss Baby Doll. She owns two
okay.
businesses, and I'm super excited to speak with you today and talk a little bit more to let our fans and supporters know who you are and how they can find you and, support your movements. So the first question I want to ask is, who is Miss Baby Doll?
So I'm a creative. So that's the biggest thing about me. I'm a creative. I am a free spirit. I'm all about peace, happiness, love, hair grease, that
Love
type
that.
of person. Um, an advocate. Uh, I would at one point say a mother, but I lost my daughter in May. However, I still have that maternal spirit. And I am the founder of LaLa Speaks Foundation and BabyDoll Glam. So LaLa Speaks Foundation is a foundation that is has been birthed for the loss of my daughter for brain aneurysm awareness. So her losing her sparked the mission to inform, educate, advocate, and support those that have been affected by it, and most importantly, to educate our community on those early signs so that we could save lives and prevent, and work towards early prevention. And then for Baby Doll Glam is the more glamorous side of things. That's where I do custom drinkware and bling accessories. So that's the cups that you drink out of, kind of like stuff like
I
this.
know exactly what you're talking about.
So those customize them for any events, promotional branding, special events, unique gifts, group events, rest in peace, celebrations of life, any of those things. Creating those special moments for people where they get one of a kind items, things that you absolutely wouldn't see anywhere else
I
is
love that.
what I do.
That is awesome. That is super, super awesome. So, to start, I'd like to jump right into your brand, Baby Doll Glam, first. So, Baby Doll Glam, you said, is all about creativity and sparkle. What inspired you to start blinging out drinkware and things of that nature and actually pursue it as a business?
So honestly, it kind of started off as a hobby. And I kind of cringe a little bit when I say the hobby because a lot of times when you say hobby, people think like you're not gonna make no money
Mhm.
chasing a hobby. That's not a strong word in the industry. However, I can honestly say for me, that hobby definitely blossomed into something amazing. So it kind of goes back to my upbringing because I was raised by my grandparents, like three of them. So the seasoned people, in our little time, they were very much into hands-on activities,
Mhm.
building confidence, and especially when our grandparents take over and they care for us in place of our mothers or our fathers or whatever that situation might look like. So you get that extra cushion of, love and confidence and all of these different things. And at that time, it wasn't, well, for me, I was never really interested in, those PlayStations or any of those games. I was always like, reading or blinking. But so I kind of started with that. They bought the little kits and, with the painting, and I like to paint by the numbers. And it just kind of started, there. And then it was also therapeutic, because my
Mhm.
brothers, they were, outside and all that. I had allergies. So they was like, baby, I can't do nothing. That's kind of one of the reasons for the big because she can't do nothing. She can't take trash out. She can't sit with the grass. I couldn't do all that stuff. But that was something I was able to do. And I actually, I really, really liked it. It was a very much a therapeutic escape, just as it is even now, while still doing business. And from that point, I kind of started going out kind of young, and there was this lady, she was called like the glass lady. And when we went out, they had these cutest, the pimp glasses and, all of that.
Mhm.
I was kind of like a Garanimal person, so I'm like, "Ooh, that can match my clothes." So it kind of just started, with that. And then my god sister, she would be out a lot more than I would, and she was a lot more hospitable than I could ever be. And I started making them for her, and it's like, "Where did you get that?" And she's like, "My sister did it. My sister did it." And first I was kind of like, I didn't know what to charge and nothing. I was virtually giving them away. And then somebody's like, stop giving those things away. She's like, do you know how much, those are worth? And all like that. I was like, oh, really? And so then I started, doing my homework, going on YouTube, seeing what people were actually doing. How much do you charge for this?
Yeah.
And,
Doing
you
your
know,
research.
yeah, so I
Mhm.
did my research, and then I would go places, and they'd be like, "That's that girl that does the glasses. That's that girl right
Mhm.
there." And at that point, I realized I had a brand. I
You
really
had
did.
something.
I didn't really
Mhm.
know it, and so I just started doing that, and then I started getting orders, and I was trying to work, but then I was getting more and more and more and more orders, and so from that time, then I explored my options to how do I make this an actual business and all of that, and that's how BabyDoll Glam actually started.
That's awesome. How did you get your name?
So the baby doll thing, they tease me like I'm the person that'll wear the tutu and be overdressed in the daytime. Real pretty, real bougie. So that's kind of where it started, and that started like way back as a child, more
Mhm.
than 10 years old, and then it just kind of carried on, and so now if I've started doing more talking from a social media standpoint,
Mhm.
Baby Doll, I'll never get rid of the little doll. If you ever get on the internet on social media and you see the little doll with the pink dress and the tumbler in her hand, I'll never get rid of her because uh, it took me a minute to go social. That was the next reason that it took me a minute before I made my business official. But once I really started realizing I was making enough money to have to claim taxes, that's when I, had to make the decision. But I didn't want to go on social media. But I'm like, I started this business, I done got a website, and now, I've started adding extra costs when I didn't have extra costs at first. But I'd been in a very, very domestic relationship. So once I realized I was evolving, I was like, I'm not gonna let this stop me from moving forward to bless others with my craft and continue doing what I really enjoy doing and I'm doing pretty well at. So that's where the baby doll continued from social media. Because a lot of times people are like, baby doll, but what's your name? My name is baby doll.
Mhm. That's right. Your name is BabyDoll. You gotta brand yourself properly. You tell them, "I told you what it was."
I told you what it was. Now, when I have to do legal documents with the government, the police, and those
Mhm.
people that will not allow me to use baby doll unless I go through the process of changing that too, then, so it's always baby doll. So I kind of just kept that because it allowed me to grow because I had all this anxiety,
Mhm.
internally, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna post another cup. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. So I did everything. I literally grew with a faceless um, platform.
Brand. Mhm.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned, of course, that it was therapeutic for you to bling. Can you share how this creative outlet helped your personality grow?
So it 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 built up more confidence to empower others is really what it was, because you never know what people think of you, unless they congratulate you or you fall out with
Sure.
them, or something like that. So over time it it built confidence because I create just everything. So it could be anything from just
That
Uh,
was my next question too. What items do you bling?
so everything. So it starts, of course, with the tumblers, the wine glasses, and things like that, because that's pretty important. Because when COVID hit, um, I capitalized on the tumblers because people breathe all over your stuff. And then prior to COVID, there was an influx of people putting Mickeys in drinks. I thought that was over. And
Mhm.
it wasn't. And before the tumblers, I was doing like the little dollies, the drink covers, you know, encouraging women to cover their drinks. So that's kind of where my purpose started. It started off kind of being fashionable because it was just matching. But when people realize, like, I've made cups for breast cancer awareness and pancreatic, cancer, all of these different forms of organizations. And when you find out that you could have it on your cup, or it could be, blinged on your mirror, because usually when you have any of these things, somehow either you've lost hair, something has impacted you physically, where we have that extra need to do extra things so that we can feel beautiful. So to complement your
Mhm.
outfit with a showpiece, because that's what it ultimately becomes, because people expect you to have on a nice suit. And even for men, men will get the cups too, and they're like, dang, and if they're looking really nice, we're like, whoa, you got this cup. Where did you get that from? You know.
Mhm.
Are there any dream collaborations that you would love to be a part of?
So I said I wasn't gonna say it. I was gonna keep a secret, but I
Okay.
feel that I was. Everything's a vibe for me. So when I met Ash, like, who would have thought? Like, no, I'm gonna be on the show. We just like kind of vibe right away. So
Mhm.
there are some ambitions. So since and I want to share this part, for everybody. It's like time waits for no man.
That's true.
So, along the way, I've kind of, I shared with my daughter some of my visions and things like that. And she's like, yeah, that's a good idea. You really, really, really should do it. So there have been some things that have been, my dream, and that's always to kind of collaborate with other, trendsetters, and get my brand and things out there. Because at first, prior to my daughter passing, I was pretty much an introvert. So with all this advocacy and all that, I'm like, oh, I got some nerve now. So uh, so I met you and like, oh, you in Atlanta. So I do have some ambitions, because I really, really love uh BB Judy. I think she is amazing. Her journey, with kaleidoscope and things like that. And I miss, some of her things. So I said I was going to try to go to some of the places in Atlanta and kind of, just kind of, get my name out there for the baby doll glam, and then for the advocacy piece, because I'll be putting out some pieces to advocate brain aneurysm. So I've gotten some things in mind that I want to move forward on, and try to make those connections on my own, because you try to hide behind DMs and things like that, but it just does not get the impact that you need for
Mhm.
anything that you really deem to be important. And so that's my dream collaboration, is to make some collaborations with some people that are quite influential, to expand, the voice of the brain aneurysms.
What inspires you to merge your business with philanthropy?
Anyone that has been doing this for some time, I just want to say that, because it's not easy. I've found the very hard way that having conversations of purpose are not easy to drive an audience. And an immediate success is absolutely a process, and you have to build a little bit of some tough skin, because you have to understand that your journey is not everybody's journey.
Mhm.
What you're communicating to them is not that. So prior to getting the foundation, I realized that I was doing community. However, I wasn't getting the proper credit, for community.
Mhm.
So that made me explore, like, okay, how could I expound on what I'm doing but not just doing it for my customers. Because I do like a lot of giveaways, for birthdays and, for, awareness and things like that. But I'm like, but what about people that are undeserved?
Yeah.
Not someone who's already spending with me that can't afford it, just would like, to uh, have loyalty and receive some type of incentive for their service with me. But others, the youth, those that, like, when I go places, pink is my favorite color, so I wear a lot of pink. So, and I do a lot of bling, which attracts children. So, children, I always think I'm like the coolest thing, and they just really, really like me. They cling on me, where'd you get that? And what's your name? And, so I'm thinking like, wow, what about doing something for them, giving back and, helping them learn, because I know how it was for me, and even now dealing with mental health and the issues of day to day and the
Yeah.
bullying and all of the things that anyone could experience while they're growing up, to have that outlet. So with that, I figured BabyDoll Glam is the funner part of things, and if I could bring a little sparkle, a little fun, and introduce how we can deal with self confidence and all of these things through glam, then that's kind of where I started exploring what could I do for the community, and that would really, kind of help. So that's what kind of grew it. And when I do the party things and things like that, I get a wonderful crowd where I might have something that's just LaLa Speaks that doesn't have that same level of excitement and may have a very empty house. So it seemed as a very good idea to incorporate it in my current business, where people already knew me, where people already trust me, where people will most likely follow, some will follow me on that journey. And then I'll just grow to, to meet others. But yeah, that's what kind of inspired it, because I figured that I could get a bigger audience in a quicker time if I incorporated something a little bit more relaxed.
Mhm.
Love that. So I know we spent the first portion of the show speaking to you about BabyDoll Glam, which is absolutely amazing. I look forward to speaking more with you about that off air, because I actually have something in mind that may align with your vision right now, and we'll see if it does. But for the second portion of the interview, I'd like to jump into the LaLa's Foundation. You talked to me a little bit about how it started. Condolences for the loss of your daughter.
Yes.
And it's intriguing to me because I actually have a cousin who passed away from a brain aneurysm. She was over in Madison, Illinois, and she actually had been suffering from epilepsy for her whole life. So she has seizures, and during this time she had like a tumor or whatever it was that got it started to grow, and she was traveling back and forth to see her mom in Florida. And I think that they were, her mom even said that she thinks that that last flight may have had something to do with irritating, that but she ended up passing away young, very young, had children, so I'm intrigued by the vision that you have and that organization. Talk to me a little bit more about that, and how do people get involved with it, and what do you seek when people look to get involved?
Okay. Well, first thing, you said something that I must, totally address. Now, of course, I'm not a doctor, but you brought up something very interesting, and that is based on the size of the aneurysm. Traveling is not advised, and it is something that could cause it to rupture. It's
Mhm.
one of the did you knows. So just kind of wanted, to address that. But
Yes.
uh, with my daughter, I had no clue. I mean, it's when they say it's a silent killer, it's absolutely a silent killer. It doesn't have to be, if we are just a little bit more in tune with our bodies. But by the time we have any signs from a brain aneurysm, it's usually when it's about to rupture, and that's the difference between us being able to have conversations as testimonials, or our
Yeah.
family having us have celebrations of our lives. So with my daughter, I mean, I really had, no clue. However, with me, I did um, because we were so close, I did notice that she was having some difficulties. And with each thing that I identified, I have a conversation with her, right? And from that conversation, she'd schedule an appointment. And for each appointment that was scheduled, she was underdiagnosed.
Hmm.
So I share these things to say that um, this, amongst other things that exist in the health industry, can often happen because there are several symptoms that mimic other symptoms. And if we're just not the type of person that one wants to deal with our health in the first place, we don't want to deal with it. But now that we have to deal with it, sometimes we don't either communicate ourselves well enough, or there's a disconnect between you and the doctors.
Yeah.
So the journey that I had with her was a short journey of the things that I identified, for her, like her eyes. She had blurred or double vision. Well, if we ever have anything wrong with our eyes, what do we do? Where do we go? We go
To
get
the
our
eye
eyes,
doctor.
right? So
Mhm.
she went there. She was advised that she had Bell's palsy, see a neuro person, but it's kind of just like, hey, when you leave here, go pick up a turkey leg. It didn't sound like a sense of urgency or anything like that, which she did schedule an appointment. However, she didn't get seen in time before she went to the hospital. She had had high blood pressure. So, with having the high blood pressure, as many of us do know that follow our health, that can contribute to a lot of spirals or other things happen to our body, like kidney disorder and things like that. So, 6 months prior to that, she was diagnosed with kidney disorder. She had some anemia. Still, no, we had no clue about the brain aneurysm. So, as all these things are happening and she's being seen, and I'm noticing all of these things, and have to go through all these processes and actually have the experience at the hospital. And that's where I learned a lot. I give kudos to Dr. Carew, because I am definitely not a person that goes to the hospital, funerals, or anything. But this particular doctor was amazing and really spoke to me as a human. Even made sure I understood, just as I was being in one of his residency programs. So, and that inspired me right then, because as I shared, I never thought I'd be doing this, I swear.
Yeah.
Um, but then I'm like, well, God, if I got to make a decision to take my daughter off of life support, I have to. I'm not going to get what I want. So I'm thinking like, well, God, I gotta have something. Like, when I made her date, we made it like at 3:33, signs of Trinity, mind, body, and soul, and I wanted to have her celebration of life on her birthday. So I told God I wanted that, and I was like, well, I want a foundation, because if you've decided that you needed her, then I need something. And that's what I want. I want to help other people to be more aware of their health. And for those that there are so many people that have survived that don't know where to go, or there's so many people that are having symptoms and don't know how to advocate for themselves, or just all of these different situations. It just sparked me to be, hey, I want to be part of this change. I couldn't save my own, but I feel that this is what my daughter wants me to do too. This is what, my purpose is. So that's how I've aligned it with BabyDoll Glam, and then with the LaLa Speaks, just driving that mission.
I love that.
Nice. Super nice. Okay. Go-
Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you was gonna go ahead and say something. Nah, definitely education, awareness. Everybody in the world with health. It just needs to be
Yeah.
more uh,
And
discussed.
it's tricky because the stuff that you think you doing right, then they could turn around and recall that.
Nah,
And
for
it's
real.
like, oh, broccoli, recall.
Right.
I was like, it's like,
Right.
dang, I think
Right.
I'm doing right by myself, but it's pesticides and toxics in this stuff
hmm
because of how it's being grown or whatever. So it gets tricky, situation with the eggs, with
Yeah.
bird flu and whatnot. So, yeah, I feel that. Hmm.
hmm
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, I'm gonna switch it up here and ask some. I guess you could say scenario questions here, baby doll. You know, nothing serious here. Just
Okay.
let our audience know. You know, the left side of you here, the left brain trickling.
All right.
Okay, so the first question is gonna be: if you could host a glam workshop anywhere in the world, where would it be?
I would have to say Atlanta.
Okay.
All
That's
right.
crazy. Anywhere in the world. And you say Atlanta, that let y'all know Atlanta is
ATL,
the mecca when it comes to
yeah.
entrepreneurship, all of that. I try to tell them, baby doll.
Yeah, I mean, I was there doing 9/11. My daughter graduated from Clark, Atlanta. So I've actually resided in Atlanta for maybe about 4 years. So I'm familiar with it. Other things have changed since, everybody was running to Atlanta. So it is absolutely overpopulated. However, as I grow in business and understand what good relationships look like, what they
Mhm,
should feel like,
mhm,
when you go to Atlanta, people are extremely receptive. They're not speculative, and some have been hurt and burned. So, there's going to be some people that may not agree with my consensus, but my
mhm,
experiences, I haven't been blemished. And I still, run into people with good hearts. I still run into people with good visions. And people in Atlanta are just more likely to collaborate than in most areas. So that's kind of why I picked Atlanta opposed to, picking anywhere else in the USA or anywhere else in the country, because I don't feel that the vision would be received as well.
Yeah.
If I were able to put together something just extremely mega, and I'm talking about something mega, but I
Yeah.
think Atlanta would be good for it.
I agree.
like Hollywood, best to believe it.
You
Best
better
to
believe
believe
it.
it.
I feel like, the Hollywood, you got to do more selling of your soul,
that part.
it's a little bit more, cutthroat. So you're not always sure that you partnered in the right relationships. You got to do a lot more vetting
Mm,
as you go to some of those faster paced places.
Hmm.
So, you know,
They
okay.
definitely got Black Wall Street here.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you could turn any everyday object into a luxury glam item, what would it be?
Okay, ask me that one more time.
If you can turn any everyday object into a luxury glam item, what would it be?
A Mercedes Benz, I bling it out.
I was over here thinking about a toothbrush, and she said a Mercedes Benz.
I'm way past the toothbrushes.
We said an everyday object, so I don't know. That's made me think about
You gotta give me a thing every day,
that's
right?
hilarious. She gonna bling out that Mercedes, and I'ma roll in it with her.
Yes, sweet.
We
Until
gonna
then,
roll out, baby doll.
I want to do a motorcycle helmet for now, though, because that's a
Ooh,
smaller
that
project.
would be nice.
Yeah, that's like my next bigger project.
What about skates? Maybe I should have you do me some skates.
Skates fire, yes.
Mm,
Take nearly
Mm.
as long. Yeah,
Nobody can duplicate that. I
yeah.
know you
mm.
took my skates because these ain't even for sale. That's how you
Mm.
catch them up.
Yes, and just do amazing things, you just do amazing things. I usually I look at people's social media and kind of get a feel or, almost like it's a wedding consultation or something,
Yeah,
a better understanding of
of who they
one's
are.
life. Yeah. Because then they're happier.
Hmm. I love that.
Feel that. Um, what's up? What you was gonna say?
I was gonna say, if you could bling out any world famous landmark, what would it be?
Ooh,
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
ooh.
That's a hard one. Oh, man. The Martin Luther King statue.
Okay.
All
Love it.
right, Martin.
I'm gonna be blinged out. Blinged out.
Martin. Martin.
Gonna be blinged loud.
Dream came true.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Get a lot of props for that.
Yeah.
Well, I have one more for you before we get ready to close out.
Okay.
If you could collaborate with any fashion designer, who would it be?
Mm. Angel Brinks.
Okay.
Nice.
She's about that bling.
Yeah.
Um,
She
not
understands the
only that,
bling.
yes, and I've actually had the pleasure of a few of my customers have bought some of her pieces for events, and I've been able to, do some custom kits for them, that align with their outfits. So, yes, I like her a lot, and she worked really hard on her brand. So,
Yeah. Dope. Well, it has
Mhm.
been a pleasure. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here with us today. Of course, we're going to air this on the radio, so we have a certain time limit that we have to stay within. But it's definitely been a great experience, and I've learned even a few things just being on here with you. So I really appreciate you stopping by with us. Tell everybody how they can find you. How can they reach out to you? On both, like if they were interested in the BabyDoll Glam or if they were interested in LaLa Speaks.
awesome. So please, please, please follow me on my journey for BabyDoll Glam. I am on Facebook, I am on Instagram, and I have a website. So at BabyDoll Glam LLC, that's social media, and then the website is babydollglamllc.com. And then for LaLa Speaks, also on Instagram, Facebook, and that is also that's LaLa Speaks Foundation. And then the website is lalaspeaksfoundation.com. So please don't hesitate to follow on both. For anyone that would be interested in either, it would be greatly appreciated.
Love it. Well, I want to thank you again, of course, for being here. We appreciate it. You guys make sure that you tap in, follow, support, all that good stuff. Y'all know what it is, the Gumbo Show. Naja, Mohawk, Ali, and myself, More Ash. We are signing out. You guys make sure you don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Peace.